Jeremy Clarkson, Elon Musk, and now Andrew Tate are some of the high-profile people that have taken aim at Keir Starmer. And this Labour government, people are starting to see right through the regime and calling it out. As stated, Andrew Tate is the latest to have a say on him, whilst also making a vow to the British people. Let's check this out, whilst also going over all of the latest news from up and down the country. But first, hit the like and subscribe button and join our fast-growing community. Labour's decision to cut the winter fuel payments from pensioners has angered a lot of people in this country. Nigel Farage stated today he would oppose to it in a video and shared just one story of how it affects individuals up and down the country.
The job of an MP is to represent his or her constituents. One of mine in Clacton is Jim O'Dwyer. He's 99. He did 31 missions on Lancasters during World War II as Tail End Charlie, rear gunner, one of the most dangerous jobs in the war. And he's a fine gentleman. But because he has a very small private pension, guess what? His winter fuel allowance is being taken away. And as his daughter Jenny says, this is an absolute disgrace. Just look at the service this man has given our country, and this is how he is being treated. Believe me, I will today be voting against the removal of the winter fuel allowance.
I mean, turning our back on war heroes is lowest and most disgusting you can get. Following this video, Tristan Tate commented on Nigel's post saying, "I'll pay his entire winter gas bill. Tell him to crank up the thermostat." Following this, his brother Andrew took aim at Starmer and vowed to donate money to pensioners this winter following the cutting of the winter fuel allowance. He said, "Because Keir Starmer only cares about funding foreign wars and is leaving old-aged pensioners to freeze to death this winter, I'll donate £100,000 to keep old people's heating on." Following this, he took aim at the mainstream media saying, "Anyone in MSM want to match me? BBC News? Piers Morgan? Do any of you actually give a F about anything but lies? What are your thoughts on Starmer and Andrew Tate also? Let me know in the comments." In other news, a grandfather who has led a grueling hunger strike for 40 days has finally had his demands delivered to Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer. Paul Durant took to the War Memorial on Blackpool beachfront in August to protest illegal migration and Labour's proposal to take winter fuel payments from 10 million pensioners. Frustrated by the lack of media attention he has received elsewhere, Durant has found support in British nationals who have followed his fight to draw the government's attention to the plight of pensioners and the scourge of illegal migration on our communities. After a month of protest that had often been met by silence from swathes of the media, the council and the government, Durant's MP Chris Webb visited the pensioner at home. The Labour MP wrote in a Facebook post, "Last week, I was approached by several residents expressing their concerns about Paul Durant. Without hesitation, I visited Paul and his wife, Pauline, in their home to engage in a thorough discussion. During our conversation, I committed to delivering a letter from him to the Prime Minister. Today, after addressing Parliament on the crucial issues of regeneration on Waterloo Road and Bond Street, as well as the recent riots in Blackpool, I fulfilled that promise." Webb then posted a photo of himself outside 10 Downing Street, holding Mr. Durant's letter. The hunger-striking grandfather felt lifted that his demands had reached the Prime Minister. We discussed the whole situation, and he asked me if I would write a letter to Keir Starmer, and I did. He says he has delivered that letter. Pauline Durant underlined that her husband's letter was a personal plea. We wrote it by hand as a personal letter to the Prime Minister. In the letter, Durant writes, "I am writing to you as a deeply concerned citizen of Blackpool. I find myself in the unfortunate position of being 29 days into a hunger strike, driven by my profound discontent at the state of my country. My protest is against what I perceive as the detrimental impact of mass immigration on our communities. Our resources and public services are overstretched. This has a direct impact on the quality of life of many UK citizens. I am alarmed by the existence of what many now see as a two-tier policing system which undermines the trust and safety that all citizens should expect from their government. Furthermore, I implore you to reinstate the winter fuel grant for pensioners through the harsh winter months. Also, I believe the safety and protection of women and children must be paramount in Britain. I urge your government to take stronger action to ensure their well-being. Lastly, I am concerned that the Labour Party, under your leadership, is breaching the human rights of our UK citizens regarding our rights to freedom of expression. Open dialogue and differing opinions are essential in a democracy. It is vital that we protect those rights for all citizens. I hope you take my concerns seriously and understand the urgency behind my actions. I look forward to your response. Durant's peaceful protest has at times been marred by harassment from those who disagree with him, and even an altercation in which his 77-year-old wife was shoved to the floor. The grandfather sat beside Blackpool's War Memorial daily, with his British and English flags to plead with the government to reconsider its policies. In August, a pro-Palestine protester menaced Mr. Durant with incessant chants of "Free, Free Palestine" and "F Israel." More recently, a tall young man got into an altercation with Pauline Durant in front of their retiree friends. In a video posted to X, Pauline Durant can be heard asking the man to leave, to which he refused. A tussle ensued, and the pensioner was shoved to the floor, banging her head on the pavement. But Paul Durant felt taking the action he has taken to have his voice heard was worth the threat to his safety. "I'm going to continue my protest," he says. The grandfather feels it is not an option to cower in fear when his convictions propel him to speak out. He urges Brits to stand up for themselves. "Don't be frightened. Please speak up. You cannot sit there and be mummified by a government with no common sense. We cannot be gagged. We're not saying anything wrong. We only want a fair system. We don't mind good people coming." The pensioner is yet to hear back from Starmer. "I've had no response." The Durants await today's vote on the removal of the winter fuel payment from 10 million pensioners. "It all depends on Tuesday. If the vote goes our way, he will eat," said Durant's worried wife. Prison chiefs are said to be carefully choreographing the mass release of prisoners amid concerns of violent clashes among gang rivals. Under the Labour government's early release scheme, around 1,700 criminals will be set free today. Ministers claim the programme is required to tackle overcrowding. Prisoners at HMP Wandsworth and HMP Thameside are subject to non-association orders to stop them interacting with other inmates, namely members of rival gangs. One source said this means that their releases will have to be spread out to prevent violence, according to the Mail Online. However, inmates could mix by mistake amid delays in getting prisoners to reception, recovering their property and arranging transport. Prisoners are set to be released after serving only 40% of their sentence, the largest release of prisoners in a decade. Policing Minister Dame Diana Johnson said plans will be in place to stop domestic abusers and other high-risk criminals reoffending. There's been a real trawl through to try and identify where their primary offence isn't domestic abuse. We know there's a history, and that's where the steps have been put in to protect as best we can, she told Sky News. Because we know, unfortunately, domestic abuse is so prevalent amongst the offending community. A high number of prisoners to be released could be domestic abusers, a senior government source warned. Nicole Jacobs, the Domestic Abuse Commissioner, said victims will be paying the price for Britain's overcrowded prisons. "We must ensure that victims aren't lost in the shuffle of the changes that are being made in the prison release schemes and the perception of justice and fairness," she told The Times. "Victims of domestic abuse are very focused on those release dates. It causes them sleepless nights. They will change so much of their daily activities, knowing that their perpetrator is being released, the uncertainty of not knowing if that person will comply with licensing conditions and of release." Yesterday it was reported that among the inmates to be freed is a man who told his partner he was enjoying attacking her, and another who strangled his partner and broke her jaw. What are your thoughts on what we discussed in today's video? Let me know down in the comment section below. If you've not yet already, make sure you do drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel for more British content. Thank you. Take care. Goodbye.